Hello and welcome back, and today I want to talk about two very special QNAP NASs. I want to talk about the recently released NAS book, the TBS 453DX, and I want to compare it against, I would say, its older brother, the HS-453DX, released about a month and a half to 2 months prior to that. Now, these two devices are very, very unique in a number of ways. Notwithstanding, they seem to be the only copper and white NASs I've ever seen, or rose gold, depending on what you want to call it. But also, they're one of the few NASs currently available that utilise a new series of Intel Celeron chips in NAS, namely the J4105 series of NAS CPUs. It's a 1.5 GHz CPU that can be burst up to 2.5 GHz, and that's on both of these devices. They both got the same CPU. They're both arrived with DDR4 memory. Both arrive by default with 4 GB that could be upgraded further. Both of them support 10 GBE. Both of them have got HDMI 2.0 on the rear. Both of them have got the same features and functionality. But as you can probably tell already, one of the biggest differences between them is the frigging size. Look at the scale on these two. Now, the silentNAS, let's pop that back there, shall we, to make sure we keep things synchronized, shall we? The silentNAS here is so called because it does not feature an internal fan. It features an enormous heatsink here at the top. This is this giant metal panel that's built into a heatsink that effectively works to dissipate heat from the device, allowing you to control temperatures, keeping them low as possible, and without utilizing a fan inside that can cause noise. And this device retails for about 530 quid in its base model. There's a few extra memory units versions of this that will the price is higher, but that 530, give or take, and that's without hard drive media or local tax. Whereas this device, the TBS, the NAS book, is designed to be very, very portable. It does have an internal fan, so it's technically not silent, and it retails for about £480, and that's without the hard drive media and without local tax. But here's the thing. The TBS is an SSD only NAS. This device can only support M2 SSDs. So you can install 4 M2 SSDs inside this device, and in the silentNAS it supports M2 SSDs and traditional hard drives. That means that this there's the bunny ears again, this silentNAS uses mechanical hard drives. And as many of you have found out, those mechanical hard drives, that noise in the background is super irritating. It's the building next door. I'm sorry if you keep hearing that. That's not me. But the hard drives inside this device will produce clicks, whirs and noise like any hard drive because of the mechanical spinning discs inside and the ARM that reads them. The result is this silentNAS can often make more noise, depending on the hard drive media you use, than this non-silentNAS. Because although this has a fan inside that's like the sort of fan you find on a laptop, it will only kick in when those temperatures get exceptionally high. And because you're using SSDs, temperatures will generally be lower. Now inside, there isn't just that CPU that I mentioned. There's also a Quantia 10 GBE chip inside, that controller that helped control the 10 GBE flow through this device. The same Quantia controller is inside this device too. So both of them support 10 GBE, but there's this weird grey area between them where you're saying what is silent and what is the quietest, because technically this NAS is quieter than the silentNAS. And the reason is because that SSD media, because it uses less power, it has no moving parts, not only is there no mechanical noises from those SSDs, but also because they'll be producing less heat overall. Now the system, both of them, will of course produce heat, so that fan will eventually kick in. But I would argue that for a true silentNAS, you should be going for the NAS book. It costs a little less, and yes, that money you save might be lost in terms of SSD media, but if silence is a priority to you and you like some of the features and functionality that this device gives you, then chances are what you should be going for is this NAS book, because it has certain features and functionality that you just don't get in the silentNAS. I love the silentNAS. Those that watch my video, the review of this device and the compares will know that I genuinely love the silentNAS. I like the design, I like the aesthetic, I like the hardware, I like what it can do inside and out. But there's still no denying that it's only silent if you use SSDs. And if you were going to go SSDs, then maybe you should think about this to start with. On top of that, it has stereo speakers on either side, so it can play back media beautifully outside of this. Don't get me wrong, it's no hi-fi system, but it's definitely better than, if we turn this device around, the surfboard that is the silentNAS. It's better than that tiny little speaker that we're getting there. This has that speaker, which can only really be used for outputting alerts such as RAID rebuilding, system rebooting, update available, robotic stuff like that. Whereas this device lets you play stereo sound, and we've got lots of videos, if you check out earlier videos on the channel, to show that happening. If we look at the ports on the rear of these, let's compare them in front of you there for the camera, you can see that both of them have got 10 GBE and 1 GBE network ports, and that's RJ45. Both of them have got audio in and out. Both of them have got multiple USBs, although there is largely USB 2 ports on this device and USB 3 on the side, whereas this one is predominantly USB 3 and USB 2 split down the middle. Also, the silentNAS has a USB-C port there on the bottom if we take a closer look, as well as 2 HDMI ports, which mean not only have you got HDMI 2.0 over 4K, but you've also got a 1.4 port for audio or mirrored screening. This device only has the one, but it's still HDMI 2.0. And again, at that lower price, it does make you wonder about which one of these two is better suited for your needs. Now, I'm not going to say that this is the better NAS overall. It really isn't. This device here, because it lets you utilize both hard drives and M2 SSDs, the result is that you can create SSD cache and you can create two pools of storage where the two hard drives can be RAIDed together for your archive and your long-term storage, and at the same time the SSDs can either be used to cache with them to improve your read and write speeds, or as a separate storage pool and volume for that 10 GBE port to access very, very, very quickly indeed. It gives you a better way to leverage your spending. But I don't think that setup can be called silent. It just can't. Whereas in this device, you can populate it with 4 of those, and don't get me wrong, you're going to spend more on your storage. This 14 TB drive, for example, is 400 quid. This if you get this Samsung drive in 2 TB, it's about 360 to 380. So you're getting 2 TB for close to the price of 14 terabytes. So you are going to get a smaller amount of available capacity. I believe the largest M2 you can get is about 4 terabytes, but you're going to have to spend some serious money to get that level of storage. Also, because you're using those SSDs and you've got that bottleneck at the top, all of your storage is going to be super fast. So you're going to be spending a hell of a lot of money on archive storage where you may not need that extra layer of speed. And I think when choosing between these two, it's worth noting that the key word, once again, is silent. If you need a quiet NAS, this really is the actual silentNAS in the grand scheme of things, because it makes sure you use SSDs. There's nothing stopping you populating this with just SSDs, nothing at all. But if you're going to go down that road, then you might as well go for this, because that fan generates hardly any noise at all. Those that watched my videos with this, where I really pushed the device to kick that fan in, it didn't make hardly any noise at all. And I think given its compact nature, size and portability, as well as the dip in price, this makes the TBS a far more attractive device for those that prioritise noise and speed over hard drive and archive storage. But nevertheless, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you've got any questions or maybe something I didn't cover in this video, do let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.